Hey everyone, me Kevin here with the absolute latest on stimulus, existing stimulus and future stimulus. Let's go ahead and start with the EIDL update. It sounds like the EIDL portal may be going live January 17th. That is a Sunday, which is funny because when they announced the EIDL portal the first time around, the EIDL portal was launched at like 10:30 p.m. California time on a Sunday. It was really odd and really bizarre in terms of timing, but that's what they did last time. And given that now there's a rumor that it's going to launch on the 17th, which is a Sunday this time, maybe that's their intention, is that they get the portal launched when there are probably going to be the least amount of applications. But what I always encourage you to do is be ready. Mark your calendar. Get ready to stay up late that night, especially if you're East Coast. Hopefully it comes out earlier, but stay tuned. So mark your calendar for that free EIDL grant money. If you have a small business or side hustle, obviously I'll provide more information as we get closer, but mark your calendar for the 17th. Regarding the PPP applications, the first applications for PPP are now being accepted at local credit unions, and also Veeam.com has just put out a notice that they are accepting PPP applications. You can go to VictorEchoEchoMary.com, that's Veeam.com, and check that out. In the event that you are looking for an update on unemployment or when certain banks will deposit the $600 check, remember you can go to metkevin.com/tracker to get that, or you can go to metkevin.com/skip. That is a company called HelloSkip, and Skip will help you track various different things related to stimulus. Both great options. Okay, folks, let's now talk about what we've got to understand going forward, expectations, especially for Thursday, because remember, we've got our calendar marked for Thursday, the 14th. I got it right here. The calendar says Biden outlines stimulus package. So we've got some big info coming on the 14th, but I want to get, or at least see if we can get some insight into what we should expect. So let's go ahead and listen in to what we might expect going forward. Quick note, if you want to get a totally free $51, remember, go to the link down below. Deposit $100 with M1 Finance, they give you $30. Deposit $100 with Webull, they give you $21 up to $1,600. A little bit of a lottery there. Just make sure your money clears. Once your money clears, you should get your $51 from both sources. Okay, folks, let's go ahead and get a little bit of a stimulus update here from CNBC, and we'll add lots of commentary to this so we have the best idea possible going forward. We'll start with this brief overview, and then we'll get into some more details from somebody from the Obama administration who's going to give us some ideas as to how Biden might introduce something. Let's go.
Well, Brian, President-elect Biden will unveil his COVID proposal on Thursday, but Democrats in Congress are already planting some flags of their own. Moderate Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has said those $2,000 stimulus checks, they can't be a carte blanche. But Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is saying they're a promise that must be kept. Unemployment benefits may not be such an easy swing either.
I'm going to quickly pause there and just clarify what she said. She really glossed over that, okay? Manchin said he's willing to do the $2,000 checks as long as they're targeted. They shouldn't go to people making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 because they got a bunch of children. So expect some sort of limit on this, even though she says that Bernie Sanders says, hey, that was a promise. We can't just go back on the promise. I highly expect there to be some sort of income limitation on who gets the extra $1,400 stimulus check. All right, now let's listen to what she says about unemployment.
The incoming chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden, is pledging to push for his own proposal to boost those benefits by $600 a week all the way through October. But that might be too much and for too long for some Democrats. Remember, there were 18 House Democrats who voted against that $2 trillion HEROES Act back in October. Many of those seats are now held by Republicans, which means that the margin of error in the House is even smaller.
Let's just pause there for a moment. That's pretty big. Ron Wyden is suggesting unemployment through October at $600 per week. That's a pretty big ask. Now, I think that would be wonderful. It'd be stimulative for the economy. It would provide targeted relief for those on unemployment. I don't know if Congress is going to have, as we've heard here, enough moderate Democrats to actually get that through. It wouldn't surprise me to see in the unemployment department we end up getting something like, okay, we'll do $600, but it'll be until June, And if in June, let's say the unemployment rate is still above 5% or 5.5%, okay, fine, then we'll continue it for a month, and we'll keep continuing that boost for a month until the unemployment rate falls to a certain level. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw some kind of stabilizer like that. I feel like that would be the logical thing to do, but then again, Congress is not very logical, and they haven't done many stabilizers in the past. Otherwise, we'd have automatic stimulus checks, automatic unemployment boosts, and we don't have those things right now. So let's keep going.
Meanwhile, progressives, they have their own wish list as well, including canceling up to $50,000 in student loans. That's compared to the $10,000 that Biden has proposed. They also want to strengthen worker safety protections, raise the minimum wage, and create 600,000 jobs to care for dependents like the elderly.
I have to say, I don't know that we could expect $50,000 in student debt. That's pretty big. We'll hear some more commentary on that in just a moment, but we'll see, because Biden has been promising $10,000 in student debt forgiveness. Let's keep going.
And children. So, Brian, this is going to be really a test for Biden of whether he can unify the Democratic caucus, not to mention potentially win over 10 Republican senators as well, or if we're going to end up stuck in gridlock in 2021 as well. Back to you.
Alon, how have we heard from the Republicans, if at all? Are there any that have indicated, whether it's cryptically or on the record, that they would be willing to go with some of these stimulus ideas, regardless of the debt and whatever they believe may happen with the economy?
It's a good question. Remember, because of the nuclear option, which I made a video on this, you can Google it, meet Kevin, how much power do Democrats really have? They don't really need Republicans right now. All right, let's keep going.
I think right now a lot of Republicans are waiting to see where the Democrats land. One of the challenges that that Democrats are going to face is that the chief champion on the Republican side for those $2,000 stimulus checks was Josh Hawley, who is now persona non grata on the Capitol. So who is going to be the voice amongst Republicans to cross the line and support that measure with the Democrats? That is still unclear. But one thing that's important to remember is that how Democrats decide to do this, whether they decide to do this in a bipartisan way along with Republicans, or they try to pass this through a budget reconciliation process, that is going to help determine what exactly goes into this package. Because
Exactly, because I'm going to quickly just interject here, just so you know, when she said that Josh Hawley is now persona non grata, that basically means it's the person not welcome. Josh Hawley was great when he was going for those $1,200 checks, but now he took a pretty unpopular stand in the Senate, along with Ted Cruz, in objecting to the election certification. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people that cheer Hawley for this, but there are a lot of people who don't cheer Hawley for this. The problem for Hawley, and I'm just trying to be objective here, the problem for Hawley is this objecting has now led to fundraising for the Republican Party going into jeopardy. That is, a lot of companies are refusing to provide money to the Republican Party now. Josh Hawley's book deal got cut. Certain Democrats are getting their government or their public funding cut. Donation campaigns are being cut. Pretty tenacious time right now. So it'll be interesting to see if Democrats actually bother to negotiate with Republicans. We'll know soon. Let's keep going.
There are constraints in both ways, both strategies on this, and that is going to help shape exactly the types of policies they can pursue and how big of a package they can ultimately achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and watching Speaker of the House Pelosi on 60 Minutes last night, it wasn't all that clear. The Democrats themselves were clearly aligned. Alon Moy, thank you very much. Do appreciate that. All right, for more now on some of these opportunities and roadblocks could impact businesses, the recovery, and more, let's welcome back in Penny Pritzker, former Secretary of Commerce under President Barack Obama and founder of PSP Partners as well. Has been called the quiet architect of the Biden administration's plan to rejuvenate the American economy. Penny, it's good to chat with you again. What do you believe? I know you're dialed in on the Democratic side. What do you believe will ultimately get passed by this Congress?
I have to say, he just defined her as being the silent architect of Biden's plan, someone who used to work in the Obama administration. That's interesting. Let's listen in to see what she has to say.
Look, what I know is that there's agreement that we have to help the people that are hardest hit in our country. That means there's more that needs to be done for our workers. We have 10 million workers who are still out of work that were working in the first quarter of 2020. And we had very disturbing news last week in that the jobs report, where 140,000 people lost jobs in December, normally a time when jobs are created. And so that's telling us that our recovery is stalling and that action needs to be taken. Making sure that we help students who are trying to better themselves and put themselves in a position to be able to become a part of our economy is essential. Keeping people so that they have their housing and they have food, these are fundamentals. And so I think there's a general recognition that these things need to get done. I'm
going to pause there really quickly and just say it's very interesting that it seems like Democrats, no matter what, are saying the economy's doing poorly, things are not going good, we're going to go into the double dip recession, we need to do more aid and more support. Whereas at the same time, we seem to get a consistent message from Republicans that the economy is doing fine, or at least it would if we would just open up businesses and get back to doing work. So we got this really, really partisan divide between Republicans and Democrats. Obviously, having worked for the Democratic Obama administration here, we would expect to hear, hey, numbers are worsening, job growth is slowing. But the fact is, she's right about that. Job losses, the people losing jobs or filings for people losing jobs, those were plummeting. But the rate at which that plummeting has happened has slowed and kind of slightly reversed a little bit. More people filing jobless claims again, right? So these are important things that we have to pay attention to. And it'll certainly have or play a role in a Democratic leadership towards more stimulus.
Next stimulus bill. The other is really understanding
Penny, let me jump in just for a second. I want to sort of dissect this piece by piece. Certainly on the business side, you got to keep people in their home first. Try to keep them employed or keep their business going. What does student loan relief and the potential moral hazard there have to do with stimulus in the immediacy? I can see where it benefits 5 and 10 years down the road.
We need to make sure that look, it's another way of helping those folks who are most at risk, is to make sure that they don't default on their student loans, which has...
Quick pause there. So really, the guy is saying, hey, wait a minute, why is it fair that maybe people have been paying off their loans or paying their loans timely for years, and now all of a sudden, who knows, maybe they've paid off their loans and you're going to come swoop in and forgive student debt. Why is that fair? AKA, why does that moral hazard exist? Why would you do that? She's saying, hey, these are people who need help, people who are basically in debt or potentially even drowning in debt, which there are a lot of people who are drowning in debt who have student loans. And those are the people who need help so they can go be functional members of society, so they can get a car loan, so they can get a home loan, so they can actually go be productive rather than buried down or bogged down, I should say, by this debt. Let's keep going.
Huge repercussion for someone in terms of their credit rating, in terms of their ability to participate fully in the economy. So it's a very important part of the mix, to make sure that those people who are either in our educational system or just out of the educational system, who are really the most vulnerable right now during this time, that they're not thrown, off course for a long period because of the crisis that we're facing.
Yeah, although I would say that people who probably paid off their law school loans or whatever it was 2 years ago are going to be a little bit frustrated, but let's move on from that, Penny, if we can. Listen, you are originally from Chicago. Andrew Cuomo, the New York governor, tweeting out about an hour ago that basically we can't lock down until the vaccines are fully rolled out. We won't have anything left to open. That was his term. Chicago, many of my friends who live there say the same thing. How worried are you that no matter what stimulus gets passed, we are beyond the point of return for many of those amazing restaurants and small businesses in the Windy City and other places?
I don't think we're beyond return. I think, first of all, we have an extremely robust team that's been put together by President-elect Biden to address the crisis, to address the COVID pandemic. And we need to get folks vaccinated. That's number one in terms of restaurants, hospitality, travel, the service industries, which have been massively hit. And that's a big part of the 10 million jobs that ought to come roaring back if we can get the pandemic under control. So that's job number one, is to address the pandemic. Job two is what we've been talking about, which is recognizing we have to make sure there's a bridge for both the individuals and the businesses so that they are there at the end. I mean, yes, unfortunately, there are many small businesses that will not return, and that's tragic and horrible. But we need to help those that are doing their best to stay alive during this time, to make it and to re-blossom once we've got a vaccine in place and the economy is up and operating at full steam. And then, beyond that, we need to, then begin to invest in our future and invest in our competitiveness, invest in our infrastructure, invest in our innovation.
All right, that is the end of that clip. So, okay, what did we gather here? So we definitely gathered that there is push for $600 per week through the end of October, which is really incredible, but we're not sure if they're going to be able to push that through. We know automatic stabilizers are an idea, but that hasn't always worked in the past or gotten through Congress in the past. We rarely see that work. Then we hear from somebody who is being deemed the secret architect of the Biden infrastructure plan, suggesting that, hey, student debt relief is a big part of this because it's students who are the ones who are suffering, and it's businesses, it's small businesses that are suffering. We heard the CNBC contributor say, hey, look, people might not make it. Like if we lock down now in Chicago, businesses aren't going to make it while we wait for vaccines or we wait for additional relief. And that is where she's recommending, hey, that's exactly where we need the biggest amounts of stimulus. Of course, at the beginning, we heard the expectation that, hey, we should still be getting that bumped up $1,200 or $1,400 towards our $2,000 stimulus checks, but that ultimately it's going to come down to what kind of specific targeting moderate Democrats are wanting to manipulate into that $2,000 stimulus check package, which again would be a revision of the $600 to add in the extra $1,400. It's an interesting midday update. I thought it was pretty useful. If you found it helpful, give it a share. If you want, make sure before you leave, pick up your $51 on the way out. As usual, check out those links down below. And folks, we'll see you in the very next video.